And we're back. I've culturally appropriated some Chinese food, and I'm feeling somewhat better, although I'm sure I'll be hungry again shortly. All right. Oh, and let's see. This, it did occur to me that the stuff up here, where was it? Yeah, like that, the discrepancies in uh, like it's like that's I guess that's what this is. It's just cut and paste from this shit, which was written whenever, and and so that's what's going on here. They're just not they're just being lazy, and they're not you know editing things to match current reality. Well, they're not matching reality anyway, so what can you expect? All right, let's get back to this fucking bullshit. All right. Bannon found the key to enacting political change in online gaming communities, which would become the stage for Bannon's so-called 21st century war on culture. Uh, his war on culture. I mean that just the phrasing. It's such propagandistic bullshit. Anyway, more specifically, he found the base he would need to fuel traffic for Breitbart in the infamous attack on women in video game industry known as Gamergate. Yeah, sure. Cool story, bro. All right. Bannon tells Joshua Green, or author Joshua Green, in his book Devil's Bargain, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, and the Storming of the Presidency. The fuck? You can activate that army. They come in through Gamergate or whatever and then get turned onto politics and Trump, if you say so. What is Gamergate? Um, I think we can safely say that whatever the hell they say here about what it is not true, or it's either entirely a fabrication, or at the very least, they put heavy spin on it. In August 2014, game developer Zoe Quinn's ex-boyfriend, Aaron, Johnny, Good Johnny, I have no idea, released a blog post accusing Quinn of receiving positive reviews on her game Depression Quest. Boy, that sounds exciting, doesn't it? From Nathan Grayson, a writer for Kotaku. Because the two were in a relationship. Yeah, that like I said, that I thought was what I had heard. That that's what Gamergate basically was female game developers who were just SJWs with no real good ideas that were getting favorable reviews in return for sexual favors. Um, anyway, uh, the two were in a relationship. Good Johnny, whatever, accused Quinn of cheating on him and released personal information about her in the post. The clear, angry attack of a disgruntled ex-boyfriend. Well, if he's accusing of cheating, was he an ex-boyfriend? Was he a current boyfriend? I don't know. Um, who really fucking cares? To be honest, though. Clear angry attack. Disgruntled ex-boyfriend was quickly transformed into a frenzy against ethics in gaming journalism. Well, I think we should all be able to agree that journalism, whether gaming or otherwise, pretty much lacks ethics these days. If it ever had any, they're long gone. Journalists are whores. They're pieces of shit. The whole point of journalism is supposed to be just to report on what happens. That's supposed to be what it is. Is they just say what this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what that's what they're supposed to do. And of course, they don't fucking do that. They tell you what you're supposed to believe about what happened. And they've probably been doing that all along. So I'm not sure that ethical, proper journalism was ever done. We may have been under the mistaken impression that it was done once upon a time, but it may have always been a lie. As the attacks against Quinn spread online, Johnny, whatever, continued to post personal information about her whereabouts. Well, that's a dick move, but whatever. At one point, he anonymously posted on 4chan. How's it anonymous if you know he did it? Report of the hotels Quinn had stayed at. He also gave the legal complaint Quinn had filed against him to Roosh. Roosh. Oh, okay. I think I remember Roosh. An online personality described as a, pardon me, quote unquote male supremacist extremist. Oh, described as a male supremacist extremist by the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. I told you they would fucking come into play. Yeah, the SPLC should not be trusted about anything. They're a bunch of lying pieces of shit, leftist smear merchants. So fuck them. The legal complaint was used to attack Quinn on his website, Return of Kings. I think isn't Roosh the dude that he was kind of a dickbag, wasn't he? Like wasn't I mean I'm sure he was like to some degree sexist, but I don't think he was, I don't think he was as bad as they describe. But he was kind of this dickbag who was I want to say maybe he was like an atheist or something, and he was into just basically like never-ending conquests, wanting to bang as many women as possible or something. And then I think he didn't he like become a Christian or something, and realize that yeah, endless fornication not actually a good, you know. It seems like he kind of changed his ways. Uh, anyway, the misogynistic attacks against Quinn spread to other influential women in the video game industry, including feminist YouTuber Anita Sarkeesian. Look, Zoe Quinn, as near as I can tell from what I've heard about her, she's a piece of shit. And Anita Sarkeesian, I know, is a piece of shit. So, you know, you complain about, oh, it's attacking them is misogynist because they're women. And it's like, well, when you attack pieces of shit, when you attack people for being awful, sometimes it just means that they're awful. Like it's not, it's like somebody who is a woman gets attacked, but not because she was a woman. She gets attacked because she's a horrible person. Somebody who's black or whatever gets attacked not because they're black, but because they're a horrible person. It doesn't make these things a sexist attack or a racist attack, or it's like, I mean, lots of people attack Milo, for the things that he says. Does that make every single one of them homophobic because he was gay when they attacked him? He says he's ex-gay now, but but when they did it, it's like, no, people get attacked, or as often not really attacked, simply criticized, because of what they do. Which, I mean, how can you really say that that's wrong? I mean, the left it's their never-ending goal, apparently, to continually they would say call out, but but what they do is more likely to fall under the heading of attack people that they don't like what they had to say or whatever. Unless well, endless hypocrisy, but not surprised. Okay, Sarkeesian is most known for her YouTube channel, Feminist Frequency. Definitely doesn't sound like something you want to listen to, does it? Even if you knew nothing else about it, just the name is kind of like, ugh. Where she critiques video games through a feminist lens. I've heard feminist complaints about this, that, and the other over the years, decades even. And, there's a few times when it's been reasonable, when it's like, oh, there's only one female character in this and such. And it's like, huh, I didn't really think about it, but you're right. There's only one. That's weird. Or hey, there's two female characters in this other thing, but they never talk to each other. And it's like, yeah, that's weird. Or they do talk to each other, but they only talk to each other about guys. That's the whole Bechdel test thing. And it's like, yeah, that seems kind of odd, doesn't it? Yeah, there's a certain level where it's like, yeah, maybe they have a point, but it soon, it's like everything the left does. It's like when they've won all the important battles, like their endless war to change things as they see it for the better, and for some of it I agree. It's like they won over and over and over again. They won all the important battles, and now they've run out of legitimate things to complain about. So now they move on to ever smaller, more pointless complaints. And it's just it's beyond ridiculous at this point. At some point, it's like, all right, it's like, shut the fuck up and just leave people alone. Fuck. Our platform primarily calls for less sexualization and murder of women in games. Okay. I'm not in favor of that, of the sexualization part, and I'm not in less. I mean, I'm against less sexualization of women. It's okay, in my opinion, if you want to sexualize men more than they currently are. But the idea that you should sexualize women less, it's like, no. I like women, with it's like Laura Croft. It's like she used back, real Laura Croft back in the day, big boobs. It's like, yes, I like that. Everybody likes that, except for women with small breasts. It's like that's kind of what feminism often is. It's like it's less attractive women trying to remove the advantage that more attractive women have. That's kind of what a lot of it is. Um, I, I don't know. Oh, this whole thing. All right. So no, I'm in favor of sexualization. Like I said, you want to sexualize men more, that's fine. But I take a stand against any idea that women should not be sexualized. It's like, or should be sexualized significantly less or something. It's like, no, it's fine. Sexualization of women is fine. Um, Sexualization of men is fine. But you, like I said, you want to you want to try to make it more even-handed or whatever. That's fine. But but no to the censorship of the boobs or whatever. As far as less murder of women in games, I wasn't aware that women got murdered a lot in games, particularly. Although I suppose I'm not really surprised because it's, I mean, it's just like complaints. What is it, Gail Simone or whoever complaining about women getting killed in comic books. It's like, well, men care about women, rightly or wrongly, men care about women. Sometimes even women they don't know significantly more than they do about men, about other men. Whether they know them or not. Um, and so having a female murdered, that really it provides more uh, motivation for males to act. Like men, like I said, is like you show men being murdered, and other men see that and they're kind of like, oh, that sucks. But they see women being murdered and they're like, the fuck, it's like want to do something about that. Want to get the killer. You just more motivated. It's just it's genetic. It's just a thing. Um. Anyway, these critiques led to bomb threats against her life. Um. I'm not. I'm. Yeah. I don't. I mean, this fucking thing is taking too long already. I don't have time to follow up on all these fucking links. But that really sounds like probably it's something that's either bullshit or way the fuck blown out of proportion. Like, oh, somebody on Twitter said, said, you know, I want to blow you away or something, and it's like, hey, they're threatening my life, and it's like it was some dickhead on Twitter. Just ignore them. They're not really coming after you. You know, it's some 300-pound, you know, person at a keyboard. They're no real threat to you unless you get between them and a bag of chips. um, which required her to cancel public speaking engagements at Utah State University. That I mean, is it possible? It's possible. Is it likely? It doesn't sound like it to me. I mean, that people don't like her, sure, but that they actually hate her enough to bomb her speaking engagement, that seems very unlikely to me. Um, Other women attacked included Brianna Wu, a game developer who posted a meme mocking the group of gamers who are threatening women's lives. After threats against her life, she was forced to go into hiding. Really? Again, that seems doubtful that she was actually forced to go into hiding. It sounds more like, somebody was a dick to me on Twitter or wherever, and I got scared. And it's like, you probably shouldn't have been scared. It was probably not a real threat, like not real credible threat. Um, Generally speaking, I mean, obviously it's not always it's like, um, like ISIS or Al Qaeda or something. It's like they probably will make threats, and their threats are not necessarily hollow. But generally speaking, like ordinary people who aren't actually part of some for real terrorist group, and I mean a real one, not one that's been designated so by the SPLC. I mean an actual terrorist group. Um, but ordinary people are not part of some terrorist organization or something. When they threaten people online, it's usually just them blowing off steam. It's just bullshit. It's like they don't really mean it. They're probably either stupid or ignorant, and they don't understand that making a terroristic threat like that actually is a crime. And so they say, "Or I'm going to kill you." It's just like um where is it, New York or whatever, where supposedly it's like, oh yeah, everybody does that. Everybody, says, they get pissed off at you and they say, I'm going to kill you or whatever. They don't mean it. Like they don't actually have any intention of murdering you, but they say it. But anyway, it's in real life more often than not, it's the people that you really piss off who don't actually say anything about what they're going to do to you. they're the ones who are probably really going to do something to you. And you're not going to know it until it's too late. Because they're smart enough to know, yeah, you don't telegraph that shit. If you're going to kill somebody, you keep quiet about it. Don't want it on record that, I threatened to kill her. No, no, I'm just going to quietly, slit her throat in the middle of the night. I was like, um, but like I said, all the keyboard warriors out there, it's like, are they really, are they really all that dangerous? The vast majority of them are perfectly harmless. I mean, how much do you have to really, really hate somebody to track them down in real life and try to take their life? I mean, that's I mean, I suppose if you're like genuinely mentally ill or something, you might be that obsessive, but most people, it's like if they had to go, across town, it'd be like, oh man, do I really want to go that far? you know, they, you know, and if they did, they probably only like key your car or something. Um, all right, where the fuck were we? Uh, this event developed the current playbook of how to weaponize the internet to carry out mass threats, doxing, and abuse against women, people of color. Yes, it's never against men, is it? And it's never against less colorful people and members of the LGBTQ plus community. Yes, and it's never straight people who are bullied either. The goal of these tactics is always to stop unwanted progress of diversity. What the fuck kind of what is up with that? Look at that phrase. It's to stop unwanted progress of diversity into culture that these groups have identified as their territory. What the hell kind of what unwanted progress? Well, first of all, you're suggesting that it's progress like it's a good thing, and it's like again, it's most of it probably neutral and possibly bad. Only sometimes is it actually good. Um, Diversity, again, diversity is not any kind of strength or necessarily a positive thing. If you're lucky, it's neutral. It's all too often, it just deepens divisions and causes more problems. Um, there's the biggest problem is to a certain extent, is the existence of left wing ideology at all, because they seek to create that division. Mm. Paul Booth, a professor at DePaul University, explains that, quote, today, angry internet mobs routinely use the threat of rape, bombings, and assassinations as a way to lay claim to whatever it is they think they're losing to what they describe as political correctness. Okay. Political correctness is utter bullshit. No one should, uh, no one should be politically correct. Well, I mean, well, no one should be forced to be politically correct. Let's put it that way. It's like nobody should feel that they have to be. I mean, if you want to be, that's fine, but nobody should go around policing what you say and saying, "Oh, you're being offensive. You have to stop talking like that." It's like, no, it's not your business. It's not anybody's business to police how people talk. People should feel free to speak their opinions, and unless whatever it is that they're saying is actually illegal, and threatening people, yeah, that is illegal. Um, but I mean, you don't you see the left and anybody on the left complaining about, oh, I've been threatened. They've threatened to rape me. They've threatened to bomb my speaking event. They've threatened to assassinate me, uh, and using that as to promote the idea that I'm a victim. Feel sorry for me. Blah 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 blah. But you get the same thing happening to people on the right. Stefan Molyneux, for instance, I believe he's had to cancel multiple events over the years because of bombing threats and shit. Um, and nobody cares. Like, like nobody has any sympathy for anybody on the right who gets that same kind of treatment. None at all. If people were and they probably have, but if people are threatening to rape or kill, like Michelle Malkin or somebody, uh, does she get, sympathy? Of course not. The left is like, well, good, they should kill her. It's like, something like that. No, nobody cares when it's a conservative Asian that's being targeted for harassment. But a left wing Asian is like, oh, run to the rescue. Got to protect them. The double standard is just, it's absolutely abhorrent. I mean, and look, everybody is a hypocrite about something, but the level of hypocrisy from people on the left, it's really beyond the pale. It's really, they're in a league of their own. It's fucking insane. Um, and as much as I would definitely not threaten to rape, bomb, assassinate, and as much as I would recommend that everybody else refrain from threatening people with those such things, my advice to anybody who does, regardless of which side you're on, if you're getting threats online, first of all, if you really believe that it's a credible threat, then you should go to the authorities. You should also probably own a firearm and be prepared to defend yourself if necessary. Um, but for the most part, probably these threats are just empty threats, and that's all they are. And you'd be well advised to develop a thicker skin. Like if you're really, oh, I'm bothered by, I'm triggered, by these, threats on Twitter or whatever. It's like Twitter provides you with the ability to mute or block accounts that are harassing you or that you just find annoying. So why don't you do it? Block them, mute them, or don't and just ignore them anyway. Or, reply with, with, a middle finger gif or something. I mean, you know, just you'll be happier. You'll be happier if you just take things a little bit more and lightheartedly. Uh, like I said, unless and see the problem is people on the left. I don't think that they. Well, I I don't know for sure whether they're lying. Like when they act like they're really in fear of their life, it's like, are you play acting to try to get sympathy? Are you playing the victim, or are you really incapable of telling a real threat from an illusory threat? I don't know. I don't know what it which it would be. Um, and along the way, they've adopted new approaches that combine old school write-in campaigns with internet terror efforts, like publishing people's private online information. Yeah, you shouldn't dox people. I mean, to be fair, most people that get doxed, it's like your so-called private info is actually more public than you realize. Like, it's a lot easier for people to figure out who you are than you think. You may think, oh, well, I didn't use my real name on this one website. And it's like, yeah, but you probably used it someplace else. And it's all connected to the same email address or some shit. It's like, you're not actually hiding from anyone who's determined to figure out who you are. It's part of the reason why when I signed up for social media, for the longest time, I didn't, it's like I would watch YouTube videos or whatever, but I didn't have an account and so on and so forth. And when I decided to sign up for Twitter and I decided to sign up for YouTube, I decided, you know what? I'm going to use my real name because I need to remind myself that I'm not anonymous. Even if I think I am, I'm not. I need to remind myself, yeah, you shouldn't say anything that you wouldn't say in real life. It's like I think a lot of people get into trouble. A lot of people are much bigger assholes than they would be normally because they have this illusion of anonymity. They think they're anonymous online, and this applies to people on both sides. And they think, oh, I can get away with anything. It's like, no, you can't. You can't. You're not really anonymous. Anyway, let's see where we're. With the intent of bringing chaos and fear into their lives. Um, you can't always control chaos. You pretty much can control fear, though. I mean, unless you literally have people actually knocking on your door, threatening you or whatever. And if you do, call the cops. Or if they break in, kill them. Shoot them in the head. Have a gun, shoot them in the head if they break into your house, assuming it's legal in your state to actually defend yourself. It fucking is where I live. uh, and they'll never bother you again. It's like once I was in fear of my life. I shot him dead right there. You never have to worry again. That person never going to bother you again. Now, obviously, we all hope and pray, please Lord, that it never comes to that you never find yourself in that situation. But if you do, you should be prepared to act if it really becomes necessary. Like I said, hopefully it won't, but if it does, you might want to be ready and psychologically prepared to take a life. You know, don't imagine it's an easy thing, but you got to remember, if it really comes to it, it's them or you know. And obviously that's somebody, coming to your house, breaking into your house and trying to kill you. That is not, oh, I met somebody on the street and they said something mean. Like that's not a reason to do anything to them, you know. Just ignore them and go on about your business. Um, the intent of damn it, fuck. Oh my god, this is so long. It's so long, and the commentary is like quadrupling or more the fucking length of it. I'm gonna be here all night. Vox, the bad Vox, describes these angry internet mobs as men's rights activists, white nationalists, and neo reactionaries. Of course they do. That Gamergate united around indignation over the inroads that women and minorities had made into video game culture, previously dominated by young white men. Okay, look, I'm not part of the whole gamer thing, really, but I can pretty much guarantee you that it is not that. It is not white nationalists, which that's a weird phrase, which it doesn't really have much meaning outside of, I guess, the United States, maybe Canada or something, but definitely not in Europe. It's the weird thing there is that people talk about white nationalism. It's like you realize that the idea of generic whiteness is sort of an American phenomenon. It's a New World thing. It's not an Old World thing. In the Old World, you're not generically white. You're English. You're Scottish. You're Irish. You're German. You're French. Etc. Etc. You're not generically white. It's like, so that's kind of a weird New World thing. Of idea of generic whiteness. Um, I mean, a lot of there are such things as men's rights activists, and they do feel like men get the short end of the stick, and quite frankly, they're right. Society tends to do that. Men are disadvantaged um, in divorce proceedings, custody battles for children, etc., etc. I mean, just all kinds of ways in which men are usually getting shafted by comparison. Um, Reaction, I don't know. I'm not sure about neo-reactionary. This may be the first time I've heard of it. But reactionary, of course, is something that's been used for fucking ever. Uh, Basically, to describe, it's an attempt at a negative connotation towards conservatives. Basically, it's like, oh, you just hate change. You're a reactionary. No, and it's like, well, sometimes we hate change, and sometimes we just recognize that the change that's happening is not positive, or at least elements of it are not. Um, Whereas you get other people who are like, oh, change is good no matter what it is. It's like, as long as it changes, it's better. And it's like, nope, that's not true. Some things get better and some things get worse over time. You always hope that it tends more towards better than worse, but it sure seems like over the course of my life that the more things change, the more, it's like, we get some good, but the good we get never seems to outweigh the good that we lost along the way. And no, I don't mean, too many women in gaming, it's like, and that's the other thing. It's like, I can pretty much guarantee you that the gamers, they don't fucking care. It's not about, oh, there's too many women around here. Oh, there's too many minorities around. No. Uh, What they care about is that there's too many leftist assholes claiming that they're sexist and racist and, they're istophobes, whatever, They're sick of that. Men are sick of being called sexists. White people are sick of being called racists. Straight people are sick of being called homophobic. You know, and I'm concerned, there's a reckoning coming. There is. And I'm concerned that the backlash is going to be disproportionately severe. You can only push people so far before they push back. The left has pushed really, really far, and they're not stopping. I think I think what's coming is going to be really ugly. And I don't look forward to that because, as I said, culturally kind of more liberal. I don't, it's like I don't. I'm hopeful that we're not like I said. I don't expect the United States to survive. So I'm hopeful that whatever successor states exist in its place later on, I hope they don't fucking devolve into something weird like some sort of, ultra conservative, not necessarily ultra right, ultra conservative though, traditionalist or too traditional. There's tradition is good in some ways, but there's a possibility that you could get like a more theocratic type state that's like, oh, we're gonna not only outlaw, gay marriage, but we're also gonna do a bunch of other weird ass shit, and it's like that's not gonna be pretty. But but when the United States collapses, there's gonna be chaos, and there's gonna be every opportunity for authoritarian shitbags to take over some part of it of and be big on the promises of we're going to restore order, but you're going to have to let us take away some rights from some people. There's a danger that enough people will go along with that it'll happen. you know I would prefer that the left had left well enough alone, like after they won the major battles and got like like gay marriage is legal and shit. It's like, okay, it's like you've won all of the major battles. let's give it a rest now. It's like let's not start trying to find every little nitpicky thing that we can to bitch about. But instead, that's exactly what they did. And like I said, I would have preferred that things had stabilized at some point. It's like I don't want gay people to be treated as second class citizens. I never wanted that. So I if things had stabilized at some point, that would have been great. But instead, it's push 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 by the left, and they're well, as the saying goes, the devil always overplays his hand. But the backlash is not necessarily going to be all that desirable either. Like the things are things. Yeah, there's gonna be something awful. Probably. We can hope and pray that it doesn't come to that, but I don't know. Anyway, one of the best examples of this is the rise of male supremacist ideology in gaming spaces during Gamergate, led by Mike Cernovich, a First Amendment lawyer who became associated with the event after he offered legal services to Johnny, Good Johnny, whatever. I have no idea how to pronounce that name. That's a weird ass name. I have no clue what ethnicity or anything that would be. Not no idea. Cernovich has a history of anti-women and anti-trans beliefs. Pardon me. Does he? I mean, as far as I know, his wife doesn't have any problem with him, so I don't think he's that anti-woman, is he? And anti-trans. I mean, I don't know. Anti-trans means so many things these days. Um, I mean, once upon a time, maybe you wouldn't have been called anti-trans unless you were like, oh yeah, it's like if I meet a trans person, I'm gonna attack them or whatever. I'm gonna beat the crap out of them. How dare you pretend to be whatever. But um, but nowadays it's like believing that a man who quite possibly is not even trans, he's just claiming that to be a perv, says, "Oh, I'm trans. You should let me into into the women's room." And like, it's like nowadays it's like, oh, telling the pervert that he can't go into the women's room under the guise of being trans, even though he's actually not. That's being, being anti-trans. You're evil. Uh, anyway, my position on the whole trans thing is I'm quite certain it's if you really believe that you're well, okay, let's take male or female. If you really believe that you're a woman trapped in a man's body, I don't think you're correct about that. I believe there's something wrong, chemically, whatever, in your brain that makes you think that you're something you're not. You know, uh, some people will say, "Oh, well, that's transphobic of you," or whatever. It's like it's not. It doesn't come from any fear or any hatred or anything. It's just like it's not. I don't. It's like you're claiming your body's wrong, but I'm claiming that no. I think it's a software issue. It's like the hardware's fine. That's just as it should be. It functions and everything. Something's gone wrong up top. Something's gone wrong with the software. There's a malfunction. I don't know what caused it. I don't know how to fix it. But I don't think that it's helpful to pretend like which I'm sure they're doing, to pretend like any research into what caused you to think that is is evil and bigoted and therefore shouldn't be done. It's like, no, we should do research. We should figure out what caused this, uh, and figure out a way to fix it. Oh, you're trying to erase us. And it's like, nobody said anything about forcing you to take the cure, as it were, if it exists. Like, again, that's the left talking. They're the ones who want to force people to be vaccinated, whether they need to be or not. Um, you know, but you know, but I think offering people the opportunity to, you know, have some kind of treatment done to where they will no longer, like, they are physically a male and they think they're female, and if you had a treatment that you could give them to make them no longer think they're female, don't you think you should offer that to them? You know, I don't think you should force it on them, but you should offer it to them. You know, you should try to develop that so that it's an option. And if they really, really want, to mutilate their body because they believe that changing, a perfectly functional male body into a non-functional, or not fully functional at least, female body will actually make them feel better, which many of them who do that claim it didn't help. An awful lot of them, say that. And I found that on years ago on some before most of this shit even came up. I was still a leftist back then, and I came across some website run by a trans woman who explained that, yeah, she'd gone and done that and really regretted it, and had all these testimonials and links to to interviews and shit with a whole bunch of others who'd had the surgery and were like, yeah, that was a mistake, and some of them had spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to fix it, but of course, once it's done, it's done. You'll never be a functional male again. So, I mean, if you really want to mutilate yourself and you're a legal adult, then I don't have a problem with you doing it, so long as it was your idea and you're not expecting me or anybody else to pay for it. It's like, you're paying for it yourself? Okay, go ahead. I don't think it's the right move, but it's your choice. But trying to trying to do that shit to kids, it's like, no, that's child abuse. That is fucking child abuse, straight up. All right. He wrote on his blog Crime and Federalism asterisk in 2010 that it is now beyond debate that the culture has shifted. It is, or soon will be, a woman's world. Yeah, more or less. I mean, women have been being lied to, and I think over time you're seeing more of them realize that they were lied to. Women have been told for quite some time now that they can have it all, that they can pursue their career ambitions and whatnot when they're young, and then when they're older, they can have kids if they so choose. And of course, the sad biological reality is that no, that the older you get, the like it's geometrically less possible to have kids. So the odds against it just increase exponentially. It's just the older you get. So it's like the prime time to have kids is when you're young. And if you're a woman and you want to have it all, then, well, honestly, the best thing to do is have kids early and then try to have a career if that's what you want. But I don't know. I mean, some of it's the fault of feminists, and some of it's the fault of men. But I do believe that there's quite a bit of fault to go around for kind of devaluing the traditional role of women. Like, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, how many times have you know? I mean, I've watched a lot of TV and a lot of movies in my time. How many times have you seen something where it's like the woman is asked what career she has or something, and her response is, is to sort of shift uncomfortably and answer that she's a homemaker. And in Star Trek, you had the joke given by Data about, must have been like something to do with construction or whatever. And it's like, like it's bad to be a homemaker. It's like being a mother, being a wife and a mother. Those are really goddamn important. They're it's like you're going to be like the most important person in your children's life, at least their early life, and your role in society to making society stable is just it's of immeasurable importance. And people have for decades now treated it like like it's a waste. Like you're pathetic and useless if you're a woman who is a quote unquote homemaker. And it's like, no, it's really fucking important. And the fact that fewer and fewer women do that is part of what's unraveling all of society. It's a fucking disaster. Anyway, women earn 3 college degrees for every 2 that men earn. Women are overrepresented in managerial capacities. Women have taken over. As far as I'm aware, he is correct about that. He frequently wrote about how to avoid false rape claims and that women exist for man's sexual pleasure. I don't know if that's true that he wrote that women exist for man's sexual pleasure. I would kind of dispute that. That I mean, I suppose one viewpoint is that that's part of their role. I would think that the reverse is kind of also true. But anyway, now the whole bit about false rape claims, I don't know for sure, what Cernovich is talking about there, but there are a number of fairly well documented cases of women who made false rape allegations against guys, especially like college students, because the colleges decide to discipline, the men whether they were ever convicted in a court of law or not. The colleges just decide, oh well, you've been accused, so fuck you, you're gone. Yeah, like, it's like you just get, tossed out on your ear for, just for, it's like, I mean, like I said, you don't have to actually rape a woman to be accused of rape. And a lot of times, if you're accused of rape or sexual assault, whatever, it can have, essentially permanent effects on your life. And it doesn't matter that it was false. If enough people believe it or acted like it was true, even though there was no proof, then you can be well and truly screwed. And there are, I don't know how how pervasive it is, but there definitely have been some cases of women who have decided to claim that they didn't consent after the fact, like like, oh, I'm taking my consent back. It's like oh yeah, I had sex with him, but then I changed my mind, decided, oh no, I really didn't want to do that. After the fact, decided, it's like, what the fuck? It's I mean, obviously well, I don't guess it's any kind of cure nowadays, because nowadays it's you get people pushing the idea that, oh, of course you can rape your wife. It's like, but one way to at least cut down on the likelihood of being accused of falsely sexual assault is if you don't have sex outside of marriage. That's a good idea. Uh, may not be a cure all, but it's close. It'll certainly make it much less likely, especially if you only marry a woman that you love and she loves you, and therefore it's like, oh well, it's much less likely that she's gonna screw you over. Um, the SPLC, again, there's no reason to take their word for anything, has documented many examples of this, including a tweet where Cernovich states, "After abusing a girl, I always immediately send a text and save her reply." Yeah, I have no idea. Just by itself, that sounds pretty bad, but leftists really like to take shit out of context, so I don't know if that's maybe a joke or a troll or whatever, don't know what it was in reply to. Again, no context. So they really love to take things out of context and try to present it as existing in a vacuum, and see, this person's evil. I'm not going to take the word for it. Using the following he built up through Gamergate, Cernovich published Guerrilla Mindset, which propelled male supremacist ideas into the mainstream. I heard of it, but I never read it or anything, so actually, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure. Wait a minute. I think that didn't Stefan Molyneux do the audio version of Gorilla Mindset? I feel like I mean, obviously he's been yeeted from YouTube, but I'm pretty sure that while he was still on YouTube, he did an audio, a reading of Gorilla Mindset, and it was on his channel. I think I listened to that. It was apparently the book is actually quite short because it wasn't that. I mean, it's like, I don't know, a couple of 2-3 hour long, video or something, maybe longish, but not that fucking long. But anyway, pretty sure that I remember listening to that, and I don't think there was any like male supremacist shit. It was basically just, kind of your standard, be the better you type of crap, self-help book. I don't recall there being any, don't recall there being any male supremacy in it. Mainstream by detailing how men should embrace their gorilla nature to find dominance and power. You know, that doesn't have to be negative. It's easy to believe that. Oh, see, it's negative. It's doesn't have to mean that. Cernovich went on to push the Pizzagate conspiracy. Oh boy. Okay. Oh my God. All right. This is gonna be a conspiracy created in the lead up to Trump's 2016 election as president of the United States that Democrats were operating a child sex ring inside a DC pizzeria called Comet Ping Pong. The conspiracy developed into domestic terror threat QAnon, a conspiracy theory which alleges that Satan-worshipping pedophiles hold high positions of power within government and threaten former President Donald Trump. Okay, there's an awful lot to unpack there. Oh, shit. Why does there have to be so much? But this is why I'm doing it. This is why I am going through this bit by bit, and so that I can, explain to anybody who wishes to listen some truth about all the bullshit that this article is pushing. Okay, Pizzagate. Pizzagate is not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's, conspiracy theory is a term invented by the CIA, wasn't it? I think, basically to try to discredit people who believe in, things that it's like, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. It's like, no, it's it's something that's really going on, and often it's the CIA involved, but in that shit. But anyway, pardon me. All right, Pizzagate. Yes. So yes, there's a DC pizzeria called Comet Ping Pong, and apparently it's a very popular place for the movers and shakers in Washington to go. Um, there was a guy, pretty sure he was actually kind of a leftist on YouTube who uh, did a lot of videos on it. I'm pretty sure his account's long since been killed off. But I watched some of it, and there were various other channels that were also covering it and whatnot. Oh, pardon me. All right. Um, that the Democrats. I don't know that the accusations were specifically about Democrats. I think it was kind of like everybody, just the establishment essentially, operating child sex traffic, child sex ring. Not. I don't think that there was any indication or anybody really pushed the idea. That this is like there were two sides to the whole Pizzagate thing. There was what people who saw that there was something fishy about this Comet Ping Pong place were saying, things that they were actually saying and documenting. And then there was the bullshit media narrative that was trying to paint it as extremely bizarre and something that obviously nobody should believe in because it doesn't make any sense. Um, One of the things that they pushed was the idea that people were claiming that there was a basement under the pizzeria where children were held in chains or whatever, and Hillary Clinton personally went there and drank their blood or ate them or some shit. And it's like nobody ever said that. Like nobody ever actually claimed that. I don't think anybody even actually like people who were actually covering the Pizzagate story, I don't think even claimed that there was a basement. There was, however, a back room to the place where private functions were held or something. I don't think it's particularly large. And no one claimed, as far as I know, that there were ever actually like children, held prisoner or anything like that inside the pizza place itself. Um, but there were certainly some odd things about it. For instance, don't remember where this was listed, but some place that lists shit like that mentioned that the guy who runs it was one of the top 100 most influential people in Washington, D.C. And it's like, really? You know, some guy who runs a pizza place is one of the 100 most influential people in D.C.? That seems kind of weird, doesn't it? And you look further into it and you found out things like, oh, this guy who ran it was the ex-boyfriend of uh, David Brock, and David Brock runs, what is it, Media Matters or something? It's a left-wing, media. Yeah, it pushes left-wing narratives throughout the mainstream media. Helps push leftist talking points and shit. So, maybe that's where the influential part comes in. I'm pretty sure there were documented um, people had pointed out that there were pictures, I believe, photos, framed and hanging up in this place of children. Like, I'm pretty sure there was one where there was some kid, and I guess it was just like a child who had come with their family or whatever to the place. And the child was like, had their arms spread out on one of the tables and like scotch tape or whatever used to tape down their hands and maybe their arms as well. Not restrained in that they couldn't have gotten loose if they wanted to, but it's you know it's a suggestive image. It's suggestive of restraint, and people found that to be odd, suspicious, perhaps even. And I have to admit, that seems kind of weird. That seems like a weird thing to decorate your pizza place with. Um, there are there was, and I don't remember whether again, I wasn't really on social media at the time, so I don't remember, but I saw, well, pardon me, apart from YouTube, and but I saw people had done videos and they had gotten screen captures video of looking at Comet Ping Pong's social media accounts, and I don't remember whether it was Twitter or whatever it was, but whatever their account was, which was later shut down or scrubbed or whatever, but it had a lot of pictures of children. It also had imagery. Um, it had there is it's a pedophile symbol. It is. It's it's like a spiral, but it's a spiral. It's a triangular spiral, if that makes any sense. Um, Blue in color, I think, and that is the boy love symbol, and I believe that that may be related to NAMBLA, which, you know, The Daily Show and whatnot used to joke about back in the day. NAMBLA being the acronym for North American Man Boy Love Association, basically an organization uh, that promotes, I think, the legalization of some kind of relationship. I'm not sure if they actually promote full on sex or just some sort of not quite sexual but probably still inappropriate relationships between adult men and underage boys. So, very creepy shit. And I'm pretty sure there's that the female counterpart is girl love, and its symbol is the same sort of spiral, but I believe it's a heart-shaped spiral. That's pink. And anyway, and I'm not sure about the girl symbol, but the boy love symbol, that was apparently something that appeared on their social media account. Now, admittedly, I'm pretty sure I've seen a similar symbol. I'm not blue, but and not exactly the same shape, but similar on certain things, like a bag of chips, like Doritos or whatever. They're triangular, and so they're sort of a kind of a similar shape. Um, so it's not guaranteed that is that means anything, but all of it taken together is rather suspicious. And one of the videos I watched on YouTube was apparently somebody videotaping. It was very low resolution. It was very low quality. Very low quality video and pretty fucking low quality audio. But apparently it was of a private function happening in the back room at Comet Ping Pong, and there was some kind of band there, like, I don't know, a no-name indie band, it was like somebody you'd never would have heard of performing, and you could kind of hear some of the lyrics. I think it was lyrics, or maybe no, it may not have been lyrics. It may have just been the band took a break or something, and the singer or whoever was talking on the microphone to the crowd. And I don't recall precisely what he said, but it was something to do with kids, and it was like, this is inappropriate. This is wrong. This is bad shit. So the Pizzagate thing, there's definitely was something fucking creepy and bizarre going on there. Don't know for sure what. The you know the whole thing kind of came to an end when an out of work actor showed up with a shotgun, claiming to be looking for the children or whatever, went in and fired the gun into a door or something and was arrested. Like, he didn't harm anybody, nothing really came, it's like, I feel certain that that was a false flag. That was that. I mean, he was a fucking actor. They hired him to do that. You know, I feel certain that's what happened. They're like, public scrutiny is a little too much. We need a false flag to try to shut this shit down. And so they hired this guy to come in and, fire off a shot so that they could be like, oh, you see what happens when people believe in these silly conspiracy theories, and they succeeded in basically shutting down any investigations. Um, Now, the next part that it says here in the article, though, the conspiracy developed into domestic terror threat to QAnon. First of all, there's no such thing as QAnon. There is Q, and there are the Anons. There's QAnon is not a thing. Um, Q was a psyop. Now, many people say that, and they're like, "Oh, it was a bad thing. It was a psyop to keep Trump supporters complacent and keep them from doing anything." And it's like, keep them from doing what? Trump was in charge of the country. He was in power. I mean, what were they supposed to be doing? Trying to topple Trump's government? That doesn't make any sense. What? So, no, no. What Q was a psyop, but a positive psyop meant to keep morale boosted amongst Trump supporters. You know, Q's whole thing was, trust the plan. We're gonna round up the bad guys, all the traitors and everything. The plan, many people after nothing happened and Trump left office, many people were like, "Oh, there never was, a plan." I think that's bullshit. I think obviously there was a plan and the plan failed. I think the sad truth is that the United States was already too far gone. There's too many corrupt pieces of shit in positions of power. Trump was able to disrupt it for a while, but ultimately, couldn't, couldn't win. Ultimately, there was just no stopping all of the conspirators. There's too many evil pieces of shit, in power in this country. DC is, it's worse than a swamp. It's not something that can ever be drained. It it needs to be evacuated, burned to the ground, and the earth salted. You know, DC is it's not salvageable. The United States, obviously, at this point, is not salvageable. Some people are still clinging to the idea that eventually, the military will act or something and they'll round up the traitors. I don't think so. I think the generals are probably all corrupt, or at least most of them. So, I it the United States is going to end, is not going to continue as a singular political entity. It will begin to break apart within probably Biden's first term. I don't know whether, well, I don't imagine Biden may not last as long as the United States does, for that matter. But but during the next 4 to 5 years, I expect the breakup to begin, and it'll be a good thing. There, it's not to be wondered at that nothing could really be saved, because there's far too much power and far too much influence and money, all centrally located in DC. A hub like that just it will naturally attract people who want to abuse power. It will naturally be corrupt. And the United States has been so powerful and so rich that there was just too much money and power there. It became too corrupt to ever be salvaged. Hopefully, if the United States breaks apart into multiple smaller countries, the individual capitals will have less money and less power concentrated in them, and maybe the corruption will be manageable. Now, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Anyway, conspiracy theory, again, like I said, QAnon as one thing is not a thing. The Anons were the people who followed Q. And frankly, the fact that the mainstream media is so desperate to try to discredit, quote unquote QAnon, that should tell you all you need to know, that there was definitely some truth there. Don't know how much, but there was definitely some. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying like hell to discredit it. Um, anyway, not a conspiracy theory, which alleges that Satan worshipping pedophiles. Look, if you're a Christian, you absolutely should understand and believe that um, that the many, not all, but many of the people in power in this world uh, do worship the devil. You know that they are evil. They are many of the people in power are in power because they have made a deal with the devil, essentially. I mean, if you're a Christian, then you understand that Satan isn't just some fairy tale. He's real. There is a real fallen angel who hates us and wishes us nothing but ill. And there are people who are willing to sell their soul to him on the promise, which for the most part is a hollow one, of worldly rewards. I don't understand why anyone would give up eternity for anything, no matter how great, that was only temporary. That's bizarre that people would make that trade, but people do. Anyway, and as far as the pedophile thing, it's like um God loves children. Um, God loves the innocence of children. Destroying children and destroying their innocence is one of the most satanic things that you can do. It's one of the most evil things that you can do. So it's not surprising that people who have given themselves over to the enemy would pursue those types of activities. That's that anyway, and there are at least some documented cases of people who were in positions of power, whether in government or entertainment, who did horrible things. There was some, I think, wasn't there a prime minister of Britain that it turned out that he had had raped or murdered a child at one point. It was basically like it was a kind of like it was a ceremonial type thing, like and of course also also Britain, y'all have some awful shit going on over there. There's the whole thing about Jimmy Savile, and my God, how anybody couldn't have guessed that guy was an unbelievably creepy child molesting piece of shit. I mean, just looking at him, he looks evil. I don't understand how people were fooled into believing he was, some great guy for decades. My God, what turned out to be true about him, Jesus. Anyway, so don't ever fucking doubt the depths of depravity to which human beings can sink. This is one of the dividing lines between between Christians and non-believers, secular type of people, secular humanists, I guess, or whatever. They say stupid shit like they have faith in humanity, and it's like, really? Why? That's the sort of thing, like when people talk about having faith in humanity, it makes you think, have you ever met any humans? Like, where do you come up with that? Um, and uh, you know, like secular humanism is this thing where a whole bunch of leftists are apparently more or less that way, and they think that people are basically good. Well, that's not true. Christians understand that people are basically bad. There's good and bad and in all of us, but all things considered, we tend towards evil. We tend towards sin. If we tended towards good, then we wouldn't need a savior. But we tend towards evil. So, that's why we need Jesus. Anyway. All right. Oh my God. It's so long. How long did it take them to write this? I do legitimately wonder that. I mean, I realized that the stuff up before on the infographic or whatever was just copy paste shit from their sources, so that's why they didn't. Some of the stuff was out of date. But oh, pardon me. But still, was it impossible for them to throw this together relatively quickly? Of course not. You can write something of this length, relatively quickly. But it just, I don't know. Of course, it also feels kind of, it's a bit of a history lesson, I guess, but it kind of feels out of date. Like you digging up crap that doesn't seem particularly relevant anymore. Or, yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Cernovich was not the only alt-right, again, not alt-right, associated leader to rise in power during Gamergate. Milo Yiannopoulos, an infamous provocateur known for shameless misogyny. As far as I'm aware, that's all, like all of Milo's quote-unquote misogyny is basically just, jokes. It's like, yeah, I mean, when when he says things, when people like him say shit like women belong in the kitchen or some shit like that. It's like they're kind of half serious. It's like they are serious insofar as they believe that women serve this important function in society and they really should be serving that function. But they're also kind of only half serious about it because they're not saying, oh, women shouldn't be allowed any freedoms or, we should curtail, women's rights. They're, you know, it's, people, you're not allowed to make jokes. You're not allowed to make jokes. The left has no sense of humor. Not anymore, at least. Anti-Semitism, since Milo half the time claimed to be Jewish, I'm not sure, uh, you know, I don't know for sure what you're talking about, the anti-Semitism, unless you're talking about like when David Pakman, says that people are being anti-Semitic because they attack George Soros, and it's like George Soros is a piece of shit, and no one should think that more than the Jews because he's an admitted Nazi collaborator. He helped the fucking Nazis in World War II to round up his fellow Jews. So don't give me that shit about how, you attack George Soros, the Nazi collaborator, the self-admitted Nazi collaborator. You're being anti-Semitic. Fuck you. Bullshit. And racism. Again, it's like Milo exclusively slept with black men, so is that racist? I don't know. I can't keep track anymore of what's supposedly racist and isn't. Was given the green light by Bannon as an editor at Breitbart to use the anti-feminist sentiment growing within gaming spaces to increase traffic for Breitbart's far-right agenda. Well, like I said, not particularly far-right. And, if Bannon was, if Bannon was making, business decisions or whatever that were, whatever. I mean, you might say that's cynical, but and obviously that's assuming that it's true. I don't know if it's true or not. But like I said, it's like the left doesn't have a good track record with telling the truth. So I don't know. Breitbart covered Gamergate extensively, increasing the size of the site's audience that would soon push white supremacy into the mainstream. I'm pretty sure that's utter bullshit. And be instrumental in the election of Donald Trump. Maybe. Maybe. I'm not sure if it was actually instrumental. I mean, every voice helped. But like I said, it's like I was, well, I wasn't a Bernie bro, but I was a Bernie supporter in the primary. Uh, and then I switched to supporting Trump in the general. So, um, part, not all, but part of what got Trump elected was definitely a very strong anti-Hillary sentiment. You know, TYT may very well have been more to blame than Breitbart when it comes to helping Donald Trump get elected, because they convinced a lot of leftists like myself to back Bernie because Hillary was horrible. And then, people like myself were not willing. I mean, even if I hadn't been red pilled, I don't know that I might have sat the election out or something. But I don't think after learning what TYT helped people to understand about how horrible Hillary was, TYT, they're sufficient hypocrites that they're like, okay, well, we tried to get somebody else, but now we have to back Hillary. Well, I'm not that much of a hypocrite. It's like, even if I hadn't been red pilled during the 2016 campaign, I don't think I would have voted for Hillary. I think I would have had to sit it out or something, because it's like, you can't convince me that I have to be against somebody because they're a horrible piece of shit and then expect me to switch on a dime to vote for them because, oh, well, we didn't manage to get her replaced with somebody who wasn't a piece of shit, so vote for the piece of shit. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fucking do that. It's just, I don't know. One 2015 article, asterisk, applauds Gamergate as the heroes fighting valiantly against the authoritarian left. Well, the left is authoritarian, so. Ianopoulos writes, gamers have been there and back again. Is that a Tolkien quote? There and back again? What Bukhari, I guess? I don't know. Calls the cultural libertarian revolt against the authoritarian left is now underway. Huzzah! I believe Gamergate bears more responsibility for that tectonic shift than any other event in the past few decades. To put it another way, even the smallest people can change the course of the future. Well, that's a very uplifting, sentiment. I'm not sure that it's true, but it's the sort of thing you'd like to think is true. Gamers have done something no one else could. They've done it fearlessly and brilliantly, even in the face of bomb threats provoked by their enemies. Okay, so that Washington, D.C. bomb threat turned out pretty awesome for some of us. I'm not sure what that's about. They have proved that if you just ignore the scary bad guys with the big media platforms who are calling you names, nothing bad happens. Sounds good. Arguably, nothing bad did happen. Mainstream coverage around this event varied from a critical discussion around misogyny and culture wars on MSNBC to a dismissive interview with Brianna Wu by CNN. Ultimately, threats on women's lives were given a slap on the wrist, and Gamergate faded from public attention. Do we care? I mean, ultimately, look, I realize that, obviously I care enough to be reading this fucking thing. Um, but seriously, for most people, does any of this shit, one way or the other, actually matter? I think the sad truth is no. Um, all right. Well, anyway, let's get on with it. Oh boy, here we go. It should also be noted that during this same year, a chlorine bombing attack at Midwest Fur Fest linked to Nazi radicalization in the furry community. Oh, those horrible Nazi furries. They're the ones, I guess, that put on a swastika necklace and dress like a wolf. Put 19 people in the hospital. When the story broke, the coverage of the event was met with laughter instead of addressing the seriousness of a fascist terrorist event on domestic soil. Okay, now I don't remember who it was, but somebody, even furries are fascists. Oh, I don't know. Should we watch that? Should I pull up that video? I don't. I mean, I don't want to. I don't. I don't want to. Yeah. It's going to be copyrighted or whatever. So we won't pull that up. But I believe the video. Somebody. Who the fuck was? I don't remember now who it was, but somebody. I watched their on YouTube. They did pull it up, and it's a video of MSNBC, and yes, it's like Morning Joe or whatever, and they're fucking laughing their asses off. They can't keep a straight face talking about fucking furries, and I mean, how can you? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. I will admit, years ago, stumbling across this one porn clip of some girl who was she's wearing a partial dog costume, like some of like she had on like little paw shoes and gloves or whatever, but her legs and arms were bare, and it's like, and she and it wasn't covering like her entire face, but she had like sort of a muzzle dog thing on, and I have to admit, it's like she was cute. She was cute. It's pretending to be a half dressed puppy or not puppy dog, whatever. It's like, but people who actually they specifically, I mean, the thing that was I mean, it's a cute little costume she's wearing, kind of like a like those various naughty Halloween costumes or something, but it's the bare skin that the woman that's attractive, and the people who are like, no, it's the fur, that's what gets it's why, how, what is so interesting about an animal costume? I don't get it. Anyway, but yeah, it's, like I said, it's an MSNBC clip, and they were freaking laughing their asses off about it. But the thing is that whoever it was who brought this up, pointed out that this story that's in this article, the people writing the article, they did not fucking properly research it, because it wasn't a chlorine bombing attack. That didn't happen. It was some sort of accident or something. It was not a bombing. So what they're claiming here in this article is bullshit. It wasn't a terrorist attack on domestic soil. That's a lie. They're just lying about it, or else they didn't look into it enough to realize that, oh yeah, that's bullshit. But anyway, so there's that. Indeed, alt-right radicalization within fandom spaces, more bullshit, is typically not discussed as a major threat to society, because it's not. Because you're fucking lying about that. It's, there's no alt-right radicalization in fandom. That claim is horseshit. You know, uh, uh, typically not discuss a major threat to society, whether it be small, zealous communities of gamers, furries, or science fiction writers. Who are we talking about in science fiction writers? Um, yeah, Hugo Awards, Broken. Oh, that's the sad puppies thing. Uh, um, I don't remember. I don't remember precisely what the story is about that. But I've heard it. There's this thing about the Hugo Awards where, um, I don't remember how it works, but basically the way that I understand it is that the way that the Hugo Awards are selected or whatever is basically bullshit. Like it's a bullshit, easily rigged system, and so some science fiction writers decided, hey, this is a bullshit rigged system, and they always just give it to whoever they want to, um, whoever, because of the way it's organized or whatever. But it's but because the whole thing is bullshit, the way it's organized is bullshit. We actually can get in there and disrupt it and get more votes for some random whoever. So they did that. So they did that. It was basically just a giant troll. It's like, hey, look, it's like, because of the fucked up way that they've got this shit organized, and it's not about merit or anything. We can turn it on its head, and we can give the award to somebody who totally, would never get it. So they did that, and everybody got pissed off at them. It's not, it's they're not alt right, and it's not, it wasn't evil or something. It wasn't any of that horseshit. It was just people trolling them and being like, yeah, the way that you've got this fucking shit organized is bullshit, and here, we're showing you it's fucking bullshit. And they didn't take that well. Anyway, yet this extremist radicalization is an important variable in explaining how the United States in particular experienced an attack on democracy. Okay, they're lying about that. There's no goddamn attack on democracy. They're talking about the quote-unquote storming of the Capitol. And let me tell you something about that I have observed. The media coverage is really over the top with talking about, saying this was treason, and and talking about it like it was a domestic terrorist attack and it's the worst thing ever. Nothing like this has ever happened before or something. And it's like, the way they've blown it completely out of proportion with what actually happened makes it clear to me, at least, and I should think most other reasonable people, that it was a false flag, but it was not as successful as they hoped. I think that they're Antifa infiltrators or whoever who were there who, I mean, let's be clear. There were fucking videos of the cops taking down the barricades and waving the protesters to come in, to come up the steps to the Capitol. There was a cop who was ushering the protesters into the building. It was all clearly a fucking setup. And there were undoubtedly some people in amongst the people that went in who were, Antifa, CIA, don't know who the fuck they were. But they were leftist agitators. And they were there to probably try to burn down the Capitol, or probably not burn it down, but probably damage it with a fire, because I did hear some reports that some of the people who went inside the Capitol building were trying to set fire to it. And the other, the actual Trump supporters stopped them. They were like, what the fuck are you doing? And they wouldn't let them burn it down, or set it on fire, at least. So I got a feeling that that's what was supposed to happen. It was meant to be a more dramatic false flag. The media plays it up like it was so horrible because people went into the Capitol, although you see the video, most of them are walking between the velvet ropes, for God's sake. They're just taking pictures. They're acting like they're on a fucking tour. which, since they were invited in by the people that were supposed to be keeping them out, the cops, I would say that, yeah, they were, essentially on a tour. But no, it was clearly meant to be a more dramatic false flag. Some of the whether they were Antifa or whatever, some of the agent provocateurs who were in amongst the protesters clearly were meant to set the place on fire and actually damage the Capitol so that, we could act like it was a huge terrorist attack and it was a horrible thing. And the media kept on playing as though that had happened, but of course it hadn't happened. There hadn't been any fire damage or anything, so, they look unhinged when they talk about how horrible it was. So anyway, yeah, that whole thing is complete bullshit. This is partially because society still looks at people in fandom communities as inconsequential nerds. Well, for the most part, we are. This is also because actions of white men are protected. Oh, God. You want to talk about protection? How about the fact that, again, all of the recent hate crime against Asians, shit. It's like whenever there's a crime and it's like, it's in San Francisco or something. It's black people attacking Asian people, and any talk of it on the news or whatever, they censor the suspects because they don't want you to know that they're black, because we don't want to promote racist stereotypes. The actions of white men are protected. What a load of shit. Now, in this day and age, the left is protecting the actions of black men, or at least some of them. Boys will be boys, as we have always said. Well, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about, boys will be boys, that's a reference to children. That's like when children go and play in the mud and get their clothes dirty. You don't act like, like they need, to be whipped within an inch of their life or something because they've committed, some horrible offense. They're kids. They're, and boys especially are going to do things like play in the mud and horse around. That's what that phrase it refers to. It's not, it's not like, we went and we lynched this black dude, but boys will be boys. Nobody fucking says that. Are you shitting me? Come on. What the fuck? It's just insane. The bizarreness of this shit. I'm going to have to take another break. I'm going to have to take another fucking break here in just a bit. God. Even now, after a racist, tyrannical leader has risen to power, I assume they're talking about Trump, which he's not racist, he's not tyrannical. My God, he played by the rules, for fuck's sake. He was constantly trying to make sure that he was doing things by the book. If I'd been president, I would have had all of the traitors shot. I would have had mass executions, okay? I would have done that if I'd been president. A lot of people needed to die, and I would have seen to it they all died. You're a traitor, you're undermining the country. Well, you die, I was like, sign the order, which Patriot Act, by the way, allows the president to do that. It would have been legal. Probably not constitutional, but since the Supreme Court doesn't bother, governing by the Constitution anymore, I don't guess it matters. So, frankly, if Trump had decided that he really wanted to just go hardball and fucking kill everybody, that every political enemy he had, just be like, oh, well, I'm signing this order that says you're an enemy combatant, and I'm hereby ordering your immediate execution. He could have done that. It would have been legal. Did he? No, not once. By the goddamn 2018 midterms, I probably would have had half the politicians in Washington shot if I'd been the president. Anyway, risen to power in the White House. Yep, they're talking about Trump. And the United States drifted towards fascism. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. It's not fat. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You stupid fucking dipshit leftists. God, I hate you, and I hate the fact that I was ever one of you. How was I so fucking stupid for so many years? Jesus Christ. It's just unreal. You know, fascism. You don't know what you're talking about. There was more freedom, more all the fucking regulations and shit. You know what look, this is the thing about like there's several things. And people talk about, the Department of Justice or the FBI or whoever being independent. They're not fucking independent. They're not supposed to be independent. Do you not understand? They are agencies that are under the executive branch. That means they answer to the president. They work for him. He's in charge of his branch of the government. The FBI is not independent. If the president tells them to investigate somebody, they investigate somebody. If he tells them to drop a fucking investigation, they goddamn well better drop it. Because he has the authority to order them to do whatever the fuck he wants, as long as it's not illegal. But then again, like I said, when the leftists are in charge, they don't give a shit about what the law says. But this is the point. It's like people think, these agencies are independent. No, they're not. They're not. There's no place in the Constitution where it fucking outlines the existence of the FBI or any particular department or agency. No. All of that shit is part of the executive branch. All of their authority, all the authority that they have, flows from the office of the president. Every last goddamn bit of it. And you know why there are so many fucking agencies and shit? Why there are so many regulatory agencies, the FDA and whatever the fuck else? You know why? Because Congress is supposed to fucking write the laws. But the problem is, when they write the goddamn laws, they can be held responsible by the voters for the stupid shit that they put in there. They don't want that responsibility. They don't want to be held to fucking account. And so they say, well, how about instead of us doing it, the executive branch sets up an agency, and then they do it, and it's technically the same thing as a law, but instead we call it a regulation. So the bullshit that people have to put up with comes from some fucking bureaucrat who cannot be held to account, who cannot be voted out. That's what fucking happens. Trump was making this a freer country by rolling back all those goddamn regulations. And you think that, regulations are good because they stop people selling you meat that's mostly sawdust. And it's like, yeah, up to a point. Up to a point, some basic regulations are helpful. However, the more heavily regulated things are, the more incentive there is for a corporation that has the money to do so to buy off politicians and bureaucrats and whoever else and get control over the people that are supposed to be controlling them. And then they can use the power of the government, which they don't have as a private corporation, but once the government has given itself the power to fuck people over, the corporations can buy off the government so that the government will allow loopholes for the big guys and suppress any up-and-coming competition. That's how you wind up with fascist bullshit. That is a direct result of leftist policies. And it's very, very aggravating that so many people are too fucking stupid to understand how this shit works. When it's not that difficult to understand. If I can understand it, you can understand it. Towards fascism at an alarming rate. Bullshit. With malicious anti-immigration policies, there's nothing bad about being anti-immigration. We can't hold all the people of the fucking world in America. They all want to come here, even though apparently we're so evil. Oh, God. And racist riots, more bullshit, basically, led by self-proclaimed neo-Nazis. And then there's, of course, the constant lies about how Trump said that the neo-Nazis were good people. And he didn't say that. He specifically disavowed them, and it was talking about the other people that were there. The people that were concerned merely about, destruction of historical monuments. And they weren't there, preaching hate or whatever. These fan communities who contribute to far-right extremism. Again, far-right, no. Extremism, no. Everybody to the right of Stalin is apparently a far-right extremist. Are still discarded as trolls or man babies, stewing in their mother's basement. Well, I live above ground. uh, and I'm not a troll. People are. Some people are. JDA's a troll, self-admitted. I'm not really into the whole trolling thing. I often find trolls annoying. I really kind of, it's not that I'm never sarcastic or whatever, but I prefer, as you're supposed to, let your yes be yes and your no be no. I prefer for people to be, straightforward. The lack of attention given to these groups gave Steve Bannon the perfect opportunity to push the limits of racism. No, he didn't. Misogyny. No, he didn't. And hate. Nope. Long held in America's culture without most people noticing. Well, you have to redefine racism and misogyny and hate in order to claim that there's so much of it. There's a lot of demand for hate, and there's not much supply. That's why you get shit like that. Wasn't there like a black dude who had the cops come and investigate a noose hanging in his garage recently, and it was just the string for the garage door opener or something, that had a loop on the end of it. It's like, that's not a goddamn noose, you fucker, or the apparently rich, I guess, black kid who his parent, he's like a fucking teenager still, and his fucking parents bought him a BMW or some shit, and he apparently just like destroyed it, and had, like swastikas and shit all over it, and pretend, and then it turned out, nope, he did that himself. Or the, or some years back there was, wasn't there some gay dude in Texas or whatever who went and got a cake, and then he changed what it said so that it looked like it was saying, something anti-gay or something, so that he could claim that, oh, these horrible people, they're, and then people found out that no, you did that. You did it yourself. There's all the, this is what leftists do. It's like they're so addicted to playing the goddamn victim, that they fake hate crimes. There should be really strong punishment for that, by the way. Frankly, a crime should just be a crime. There shouldn't be like, oh, more punishment because it's a quote unquote hate crime. You don't get that. After all, somebody kills a white person because they hate white people. Is anybody going to call that a hate crime? Not usually. No, that's not going to happen. So you're not going to get equal treatment. So that fucking, is bullshit right there. But if you're going to have extra punishment because something's a hate crime, then don't you think you should have extra punishment for falsely reporting a hate crime, for pretending that something was a hate crime when in fact you fabricated it yourself? If you do that shit, you should be held accountable. You should have the book fucking thrown at you as hard as anybody can, for reporting crimes that didn't happen. You should have to serve time for that. I don't know how much, but you should have to do something, and it should be on your fucking permanent record, as it were. Everybody should know from that point on that you faked a fucking hate crime so that everybody will know what type of piece of shit you are. And everybody will know to be wary around your ass because you're the kind of person who will do that. You're the kind of person who will pretend that, oh, you hated, you committed a crime against me because I'm black or because I'm gay or because I'm a woman or whatever. People should know. People should be able to know. That should be something, not literally tattooed on you, but it should be something that anybody looks your ass up, that will come up as something attached to you forevermore, so that people will know, aha, this person is a hate crime faker. And in October 2015, as the anti-feminism, look, I want to say something right there about anti-feminism. I support anti-feminism because this is a different thing, by the way, than anti-female or anti-woman. Not against women. I like women. I try to treat them no different than I treat men for the most part. Obviously a little bit different, but not, but I try to treat them as equals, as a fellow human being. But feminism is toxic. Once upon a time, it may not have been, but at this point in history, it is. At this point in history, feminists, they're terrible. They do terrible things, and I'm in support, not of anything terrible being done to them, but of no particular attention being paid to them anymore. Like, we need to ignore them and their constant complaining about how, oh, we're so oppressed. And no, you're not. Like, you want to give it a cursory glance and see that for sure that they're not actually being oppressed anyway. It's like, yep, nope, no oppression. You want to check for actual oppression, okay, but for the most part, you can almost be guaranteed, no, there's no oppression going on. They're just bitching about something to try to get attention, to try to get resources transferred to them or whatever. And we need to stop paying attention to them, and we need to stop paying attention to Black Lives Matter or whoever, all this bullshit claiming that somebody is being victimized when they're really not. All these groups need to be ignored. We need to just say, nope, we're done with this. We're going to treat you like we treat everybody else. You don't get special treatment because we're worried you're going to call us racist or misogynist or homophobic. We're not those things. We're not going to treat you any differently than we do anybody else. We're going to be nice to you until you prove to us that that's a bad idea. And then we're going to tell you to go suck a lemon. But that's what needs to happen. All these complainers need to start being ignored. All the people that demand whatever bullshit they want to demand, whatever, change this, change that. People need to start saying no. No, it doesn't have to be anything more forceful than that. Just a simple no. We're not caving to your demands anymore. We're just going to go on about our lives, go on about our business, and ignore you. Enough of that, and they will eventually give up. That, it's like the rest of us, the majority of society, we're the ones who have the power if we're just willing to fucking use it. If we're just willing to say no. If we're just willing to fucking ignore them. So we need to do that. We need to fucking do that shit. Anti-feminism built up in Gamergate, raged on in the pages of Breitbart. The right wing's organized attack on progressive culture was about to enter a new battlefield. This is where we go to Star Wars. All right, I'm gonna have to take a break here. This is this is so fucking long, and there's so much to say, so much to just to refute. I mean, there's just so much bullshit here. I mean, you know, chances are anybody who actually bothers to watch this video will probably already know that this is bullshit. But hey, maybe not. Maybe I am actually imparting a little bit of knowledge that somebody didn't have yet. All right.